Saying goodbye and celebrating a job well done. NASA's Opportunity rover, now officially dead on the surface of Mars.
We sent over 1,000 recovery commands, trying to exercise every possibility of getting a signal from the rover. We set our final commands, and we heard nothing, and so it comes time to say goodbye. But we want to remember the 14 and a half years of phenomenal exploration.
There was mission leader, and it was an emotional moment, but focus on the last part of what he said, 14 and a half years, a mission originally meant to last 90 days, but exceeded all expectations, lasting longer, exploring more of Mars than anyone thought possible when it first launched in 2004. And guess who was there when it did? Look at this picture with me. Hold on. I think we're going to have to take away those graphics at the bottom there. There we go. That is one Bob McDonald, who was there for the moment, our science commentator, the host of Quirks and Quarks. You know that means we had to get Bob back and get him up super early in Victoria this morning to remember. What a great picture from '04, Bob. Tell us about that.
Well, Heather, you get an idea of how big those rovers are, and my arm is resting on the camera mast, which is right parallel to my eyes. They do that on purpose so that the pictures we get from Mars are what you would see if you were actually standing there. They give the human perspective. But yeah, it was pretty exciting. And I got the T-shirt, by the way. I have I got into my closet and I got there, Mars Opportunity rover.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. And on the back it says, we came, we saw, we rovered. On the back. So I went there and I got the T-shirt.
Been there, got the T-shirt. Been there, and we came, we saw it, we rovered over 5,111 Martian days and over 45 kilometers. I mean, when you hear the mission commander talk about with this bittersweet tone, I mean, it was far beyond expectations that everyone had in '04, wasn't it?
Absolutely. As you said, it was only programmed to go for 90 days. And there was a funny moment during the press conference right after it landed. They showed an overhead shot of the landing area. And I said, well, how much of that picture is it going to cross? Is it going to go from one side to the other? Is it going to go out of the... And they said, oh, no. It's only going to go about a kilometer. It won't go very far at all. And here it is 40 kilometers later. The reason it kept going is because Mars cleaned it off. They didn't think it would go beyond 90 days because Mars is really, really dusty. And it's solar powered. The solar panels are pointing straight up. So they figured that it would get so covered in dust that they wouldn't work anymore beyond 90 days. But Mars has dust devils. You know, in the summertime when you see leaves getting kicked up by little whirlwinds that come along around buildings? Mars has those. In fact, they're bigger. And one of those came right over the rover and dusted it off, took all the dust off. And it turns out that every year there's a windy season on Mars that kept cleaning the solar panels, so it was able to just keep going and going and going. 14 and a half years. It's astounding.
Until last June, when one of those dust storms covered over and it never did clean off and it couldn't get any more power from the sun.
That's
and so the official declaration yesterday, in Perseverance Valley, that's its final resting place on Mars. I just think that is just a fantastic place, Perseverance Valley. Can you explain something to me? I've just been struck by what I've been following on social media. Number one, Opportunity, is it OPI or OPI? What are they? It has a nickname. And people are posting these incredibly wonderful eulogies, romantic eulogies. This is a beloved rover. How did this come about?
Well, this happens with all of them because they're like pets. You know, you build these little things. They've got artificial senses. We give them our eyes that we're going to look through. We give them little noses that can sniff around and tell us the chemistry of the rocks. And by the way, one of them on Opportunity was built in Canada. And we send them out, and we send them to these very hostile places. They spend months or years in space to get to where they're going. They survive fiery entries into atmospheres. They bounce on the surface. They land. And then we look around. They show us landscapes that we've never ever seen before by human eyes, and we say, hey, let's go there. In the case of Opportunity, they saw these hills on the horizon, and they actually drove up the hills, and it turned around and looked back down, just like you would here on Earth. You know, you climb a hill and you get a panorama. They did that, and they just keep going and going, and sometimes something goes wrong, you know, a little bit here, and we figure out ways to fix them to keep them going. So people do become attached to them because they're just so good at what they do, and they just, that they're like these, like I say, pets that we send off, and and they're very loyal to us.
It's incredible. More than 200,000 images came back from Mars, courtesy of Opportunity. What were the most important things we learned from this rover?
That Mars used to be a lot like the Earth. The rovers that are there now and the ones that have been there in the past have shown us that Mars used to have lakes, rivers, and oceans on it about 3 billion years ago, which is about the time that life was first starting here on Earth. And it was warm and wet, but then it went into an ice age. It froze, it got really, really cold, and it stayed that way. We've had ice ages here on Earth, but the Earth comes out of an ice age and we go into warming periods. So studying Mars tells us about the Earth. It's really a comparative planetology, they call it, that planets go through extreme changes. Mars went through extreme climate change, so it's very cold and dry today. But there was a time when you could go there and go swimming and even drink the water. And that's what these things told us. Whether or not there's life there, that's for future rovers to try to find out. And in fact, the next one to go there, called Franklin, is going to do that. It's going to have biology experiments to see if there's anything that's still in the soil, any fossils. I think that there's life in Mars, underground, rather than on the surface. But, it's just interesting to see that there were once 2 blue planets, and now there's only one. Planets change.
Well, they'll build on Opportunity for those future Mars missions. And who knows, if humans get there, maybe we'll actually even be able to recover Opportunity from that final resting place in Perseverance Valley one day.
Just go there and dust it off with a broom. It'll probably start.
Bob, thank you so much for the memories of the launch and for what we've learned. Bob McDonald there in Victoria. Let me just highlight one of the tweets in reaction this morning, and it comes from former President Barack Obama with this image and what he wrote: "Don't be sad, it's over. Be proud. It taught us so much."